The 72 returned rejoicing. Amazing, isn't it? Amazing that the 72 could come back rejoicing. After all, as Luke tells us, their job was no simple task. They were to go, to be on their way, to know that they were lambs amongst wolves. Well, if that doesn't send chills down your spine, nothing does. And after Jesus tells them they're going to be lambs amongst wolves, then he tells them, take nothing on the journey. No bag, no sandals, no money, nothing. Except the shoes on your feet and the shirt on your back. And then he tells them, say peace to this house. Sometimes that peace will welcome you, sometimes it won't. But wherever you go, eat what's set before you. Don't complain. Simply do your task. And the message is brief. Keep it brief. The kingdom of God is at hand for you. What a simple homily, huh? They didn't even have to memorize it. But it's amazing, in the midst of all of that stuff, of not having anything for the journey, being totally dependent upon somebody else for hospitality and food, and of course, being lambs in the midst of the wolves, Luke tells us the 72, why they came back to Jesus rejoicing. They were filled with joy. So where did the joy come from? Was it because demons were subject to their name and that they had these great powers, and that they were indeed, because of what power Jesus had given them, they were able to heal the sick and expel demons? Yes, I'm sure that was part of their joy. Was the joy because, of course, people were nice along the way and the food was pretty good in the houses they entered? Perhaps. Was the joy the result, of course, of the fact that they had gotten there and gotten back safely? Certainly. But perhaps, my guess is that their joy came from a discovery. And discovery comes from a saying, and I apologize to you because I don't remember where I read it or who wrote it, but the saying goes like this: I went to sleep and I dreamt that life was joy. And I awoke and saw that life was service. And so I acted and discovered that service was and is joy. Let me repeat that. I went to sleep and dreamt that life was joy. I awoke and saw that life was service. I acted and discovered then that service was and is joy. It's what the 72 discovered on the way. It's what the 72 were able to encounter on the journey. Because it wasn't what they took with them that mattered. It wasn't who received them necessarily that mattered. It wasn't even the fact that they were sent out 2 by 2, although that was important. It wasn't even as though that was of the greatest importance. What was important was that those 72 sent out in pairs began to discover that when they were able to bring this message that was for you and for me, why, then they began to discover that in giving the message, in healing the sick, in caring for those that were entrusted to them, that came along their journey, why, it was in that service that they extended to them that they discovered that it was in service that they found their joy. It was in their service that they found their joy. On Monday, we, as a nation, celebrate our 240th birthday. 240 years ago, our ancestors, why they came together and they too had a dream. They dreamt that life was joy. And so because of it, they ventured out and they acted, and of course, they put together this document, this Declaration of Independence, and in it, of course, they discovered and they stated the need for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the pursuit of joy for everyone. And that joy, that happiness, that life, that liberty that you and I enjoy each and every day of our life by virtue of being citizens of this country comes, of course, as we know, with a price. And the price is service. And service is not a bad thing, my friends. It is where we will discover true joy. It's where the 72 discovered it. It's where we discovered along our own life's journey. So as we gather here to be fed along the way, as we come to encounter Jesus, who gives us the strength in this Eucharist to go out in pairs, 2 by 2, to bring a simple message. It's brief, my friends, and we should never forget it. The kingdom of heaven is at hand. It is at hand for you and for me. And in bringing that message of hope, in bringing that message of life, in bringing that message of liberty, why then, my friends, all of us can experience true happiness, which is joy itself, discovered in our service, in our love for one another, and for our neighbor. And the 72 came back rejoicing because of all that they had done and the lives that they had touched. But they also came back rejoicing because Jesus bent down and he whispered into their ear, as he does into your ear and mine. And he says to you and I, servants of the Lord, rejoice, because your name is written in heaven.